God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows.
Welcome to a pop-up episode of Your Journey is Not Over. My name is Tanya Pearson Randolph. This is my own personal journey. All of the expressions and opinions are of my own. I own all the rights to my personal journey, and to your journey is not over. Neither are to be used, copied, or edited in any way without my consent. Again, welcome to my very first pop-up episode. I wanted to do this episode not on my own personal journey, but I want to talk about trauma. As you know, I'm on a healing journey, and it's just that. It's a journey, not a destination. Every single day I learn something new, and as I learn, I get excited to share with everyone. I've always been this way. Could be something so small, but I'm always so excited to share any knowledge or insight in the hopes that it will help someone, anyone. Recently, I discovered that my OCD, my type A personality, which means I had to maintain control over any situation. Things had to go exactly as I planned. Things had to be perfect, precise, structured, and organized. If not, my world would spin completely out of control, almost to the point I would feel like I couldn't breathe. Recently, of course, going down what I call my yellow brick road, I discovered that I was never in control. Of course, God had his hands all over me through my life. And yes, we do have free will. But what I discovered was my trauma was in control of everything my entire life. My childhood trauma dictated my every move, my every decision, my every thought, my every action. Everything was a reflection of my trauma. So essentially, my trauma was in the driver's seat, never me. Reflecting back on my life, I realized that I never knew my worth. I never knew my value. I had codependency issues. Of course, I relied on other people, sometimes just to survive. I had abandonment issues, never looking at it or even having knowledge of that until on my healing journey. I was handed over to my grandparents at 2 weeks old, of course, too young to know any different, and it was just normal to me. Growing up without a dad, whom I would not meet until I was 36 years old. So essentially, I was abandoned by both parents. I wasn't even acknowledged in either of their obituaries. Of course, there is a lot to come on that topic later on in my journey. You hear the terms mommy and daddy issues. I now realize that's a real thing. Of course, people don't like to admit it. To be abandoned by both parents and not to be acknowledged by either at the end of their lives was traumatic for me. I am somebody, and I am and was somebody's daughter. Of course, I realize now, yes, I am someone's daughter. I am God's daughter, and He has been the one parent who has claimed me, guided me, protected me, saved me, and loves me unconditionally. And now, with the understanding of that, I no longer have abandonment issues, codependency issues. I know my worth and my value. I don't people please just to fit in with people or feel accepted anymore. I no longer allow people to treat or speak to me any way they want to. I am no longer what I call a doormat. Just to feel loved and accepted, I would tolerate and forgive just about anything. Definitely wasn't using my discernment, that's for sure. I will share with you that I recently had an experience happen to me that was devastating to me, and it triggered every single trauma I had experienced as a child. First, let me say, just because you're on a healing journey and you deal with your trauma head on and you acknowledge it and you understand it, does not in any way mean people, places, and things won't come along to trigger your trauma, because that will happen. So recently, I found myself helpless. By the way, something that rarely ever happens to me, there again, because of my trauma. So when I say I was helpless, I was completely helpless. I expressed that I was helpless. And like always when I was a child, I got nothing but anger, talked too horrible, and even called names in return. Literally, for a brief moment in time, I had to flip back to my childhood and deal with this person like I had always had to deal with my mother. Real calm, apologetic, profusely apologetic. And of course, I started crying. Just admitting I was completely helpless is so huge for me. But to be treated and talked to and called names because I was helpless was so heartbreaking to me. I would never treat someone who was and had openly admitted to me that they were helpless and needed me in any way. Never would I treat them that way. Why was I treated that way? Because the person I was dealing with did not like the fact that my helplessness was preventing that person from getting what they wanted at that moment in time. Again, a flashback to my mother, triggers to my trauma. And with the anger and resentment towards me for me needing that person, you can only imagine how many times I said the words thank you for not leaving me and for helping me. At least 1,000 times. Again, always so grateful. But that's who I am. When my friends need me, I am there. I don't waver. And I have never made a friend feel ashamed or apologize to me for needing me. Even at midnight, when my sleep has been interrupted or my schedule has been interrupted many, many times. I can even recall the day I kicked off my podcast. I got a few minutes after we got the first episode sent out, and I was crying and I was thanking God and my team for us actually, as a team, accomplishing the fact that it was out. But most importantly, we got it out on my husband's birthday. So a lot of emotions involved in that day. Something I had worked on, dedicated myself to, and spent sleepless nights worrying, was I going to be able to start the podcast on my husband's birthday? God is good. We got it out. But my celebration was cut short because a friend that definitely knew how big this day was for me showed up with boyfriend issues 5 minutes later. Looking back now, of course, not at the time, but I don't think this friend even considered or cared about the gravity of that day for me. It was my husband's first birthday not being here on earth, emotional to say the least. And then to accomplish something I'd worked so hard on, my first podcast, it was a big day for me. But I stopped my celebration to comfort and be compassionate towards that friend. That's who I am. I would literally try to stop the clock to help a friend, no matter what the situation. Looking back now, of course, using a different lens, I see how selfish of a move that was on my friend. Knowing the entire gravity and the emotions for me of that day, I don't think I could have, in fact, I know I could have never taken my friend's joy and celebration away from them over something as trivial as boyfriend issues. What I did learn through being recently triggered is, of course, how I handled it completely different. Before, there would have been instant anger because of the hurt and the complete letdown. All I felt was hurt, no anger. That right there tells me I'm on the right path on my healing journey and being completely directed and guided by God. I forgive always and even allowed enough grace and actually was so hopeful that I would get an apology from that friend. But with the exact same characteristics of my mom, that apology never came. Some people walk through life with an entitlement and narcissism that doesn't allow them to see the error in their ways. They only see and want what they want, regardless of who they have to hurt. They never take accountability. Nothing they ever do is wrong. So, breaking my codependency, my people pleasing, me being treated and talked to like a doormat has allowed me forgiveness, grace, and understanding. And also, with all of that, I use my discernment now. And I realize that I don't have to allow or tolerate or put myself around people like that. I can pray for them and always will. And I also can respect other people's journey. We are not all on the same path. That's why God made us individually and He made us unique. Healing is a journey, not a destination. Please join me Tuesday. Always remember, your journey is not over. God bless.
God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been